In this podcast episode, Arthur Williams Jr. shares his extraordinary life story, spanning his early years in the tough projects of Southside Chicago, his notoriety as a master counterfeiter who printed millions of dollars in fake cash, and his transformation into a successful artist. The discussion delves into the technical mastery behind his counterfeiting craft, personal hardships, including family and gang-related experiences, brushes with the law, and ultimately his redemption through art. In addition, he offers insights into systemic issues influencing poverty and crime, the evolution of currency security, and his views on societal challenges and the future. Arthur's upbringing was marked by adversity. Raised by a single mother suffering from severe mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, his childhood was turbulent. He vividly recalls incidents such as his mother running naked through their home, proclaiming "God's coming back" when he was around 11 years old. The family endured homelessness, living in Salvation Army shelters and surviving winter in cold, empty apartments without heat or hot water for years. Despite these hardships, his mother maintained a spiritual influence, insisting on daily prayers and church attendance, which instilled a sense of morality in Arthur. His father was largely absent, leaving the family when Arthur was young, only to return briefly to take him and his siblings to Oregon and then abandon them again. Arthur did not reconnect with his father until over 2 decades later in Alaska. Family traumas extended to his siblings as well, with one losing a leg following a suicide attempt and another succumbing to mental illness. These formative experiences deeply shaped Arthur's worldview and resilience. The Southside Chicago projects exposed Arthur to harsh realities, including rampant gang violence. He recounts the presence of notorious gangs like the Satan Disciples, an offshoot of the Spanish gangster disciples, the Black Disciples, and others divided into people and folks factions, each with multiple subsets. His neighborhood was rife with crime. By the time he was 18, 6 of his friends had been murdered, and he himself was shot. Day-to-day life involved navigating gang rivalries and systemic poverty. Arthur also links the environment to a lack of opportunity and the cyclical nature of generational poverty in the neighborhood. Despite the bleak surroundings, basketball offered a respite and a way to connect across cultural lines within Chicago's diverse communities. At 15, after getting in trouble for stealing a car, Arthur was introduced to counterfeiting through an older man known as Da Vinci, an experienced printer operating out of a warehouse in Chicago. Da Vinci mentored Arthur, exposing him to the technical side of printing currency, including the use of offset presses and burning plates from negatives. Despite the mentorship, Arthur started as an apprentice performing menial tasks before progressing. Da Vinci mysteriously disappeared after about a year, an event that possibly indicated the dangers inherent to their illicit work. Following this, Arthur endeavored on his own to master the craft with limited knowledge. His first attempts were crude, but his persistent experimentation and perfectionism eventually set him apart. Arthur was a pioneer in counterfeiting the 1996 redesign of the $100 bill, notable for new security features like watermarks, color-shifting inks, security threads, and microprinting. While others used inkjet printers, which failed to replicate subtle color shifts and paper textures, Arthur utilized a hybrid method combining old offset printing technology with digital enhancements for serial numbers and seals. He sourced specialized paper, including thin directory paper and butt rolls from printing companies, learning its chemical and physical properties, such as pH, which affected detection pen tests. Arthur crafted his own ink recipes, meticulously weighing and mixing pigments to replicate the exact hues of real currency, including the elusive color of money tint. The construction of the counterfeit bills was painstaking. Watermarks and embedded security strips were manually laid between thin layers of paper and pressed together. He used superglue on his fingertips to avoid fingerprints and sprayed the finished bills with special chemicals that gave them authentic texture and durability, even making them washable without damage. Arthur was strict about how the forged currency was circulated. He avoided areas where he was known, kept denominations and numbers low to avoid suspicion, and often tested the bills with discerning vendors known for detecting fakes. Despite the inherent paranoia and danger, he took pride in his craftsmanship and the effectiveness of his work. Arthur's operation was complex and dangerous. Printing batches of 250,000 bills could take a week or longer, requiring constant vigilance. He took extreme measures to avoid detection, including burying money rolled in sealed pipes and managing distribution through trusted intermediaries. His network evolved from small-scale spending of fake bills in malls and stores to selling bulk counterfeit money at 30 cents on the dollar, with strict limits to reduce risks. However, the business also brought threats such as robberies, betrayals, and violent retaliation common in the criminal underworld. He recounts times where he was set up and assaulted, requiring cautious operations with background checks and patrols for electronic eavesdropping. Arthur spent time in various jails and state prisons, including Cook County Jail and facilities in Oklahoma and Washington. Prison life was fraught with complex gang politics, segregation, and violence. He describes intense pressure to lead within inmate groups, but ultimately rejecting participation in church meetings used for gang communications, leading to brutal punishments. After multiple incarcerations and recovering from a shooting incident, Arthur began distancing himself from criminal life. Jail experiences, coupled with ongoing family traumas and reflections on his mother's faith, contributed to his growing desire for change. About 22 years after his father abandoned him and his siblings, Arthur tracked him down in Alaska. Their reunion was emotionally charged, complicated by harsh living conditions in the Alaskan bush, where his father maintained an underground marijuana grow operation powered illegally by tapping into electricity lines. Arthur wrestled with feelings of abandonment and resentment, particularly given how his siblings suffered. He returned to Chicago, trying to navigate family conflicts and exposure to organized crime figures who were involved in more severe, violent ventures. Reintegrating into these environments proved hazardous, with some enterprises, like running counterfeit money through local bookies, ending badly. Arthur's transition into art started as a hobby and a way to cope with his tumultuous past. Initially struggling to sell and gain recognition, he eventually gained exposure by donating to charities and connecting with philanthropic circles around Arnold Schwarzenegger and other celebrities. These relationships led to high-profile shows and commissions, including painting on a Rolls-Royce and murals recognized internationally. His storytelling ability and background gave his artwork a unique narrative appeal. He opened galleries in Chicago, Beverly Hills, Boca Raton, and other locations, emphasizing fair treatment of other artists by charging reasonable commission rates. Throughout the conversation, Arthur expresses deep insight into systemic poverty, the failures of welfare and prison systems, and the cyclical nature of crime and incarceration. He stresses the need for early education, mentoring, and community support to offer youths alternatives to gang involvement. He is skeptical of top-down fixes like universal basic income, concerned it would undermine personal drive and responsibility. Instead, he advocates for creating environments where individuals can find hope, opportunity, and education, similar to Norway's sovereign wealth fund model, to provide long-term stability and growth. Arthur critiques modern surveillance and policing, pointing out the increasing use of technology such as automatic license plate readers and facial recognition, viewing it as a step toward a digital police state. He worries about the ethical implications and control behind advances like AI and robotics, enforcing laws, emphasizing how power can be misused by those in control. He references historical cycles of societal rise and fall and is cautious about the loss of privacy and civil liberties that accompany technological surveillance, drawing parallels to oppressive regimes. Arthur continues to experiment with new materials and technologies in his art. He has incorporated high-tech media, such as robotic welding and advanced materials originally designed for space and luxury retail stores. His recent works include layered and textured pieces mimicking crumpled currency and thematic imagery, combining his criminal past and visionary concepts. He leverages digital tools and traditional craftsmanship to create immersive murals and paintings that almost transport viewers into the scene, embedding hidden elements like fingerprints and watermarks reminiscent of his counterfeiting roots. Apart from his technical prowess in counterfeiting, Arthur highlights his role in inspiring others, as evidenced by people who read about his exploits and attempted to replicate them without success. He acknowledges the dangers and forbids sharing sensitive details to prevent misuse. Despite a violent and difficult past, he has carved a path toward redemption through art and mentorship. His story is one of resilience, transformation, and the pursuit of legitimate success after profound hardship.